Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer, welcome back to Farming Simulator 17, and welcome back to Coldborough Park Farm. So, what is going on? We're up at the main farm, and we've got our fast track hooked up to our loading wagon. And it's about half full. I want to say it's got about 20,000 liters in it. So we're up here because we just gathered up these small fields right here, these little, I don't know what you want to call them. These are the fields the grass fields that you own when you start. And I always feel like most map makers kind of give you a little, they give you a little something, a little freebie. And I feel like this is some grass that we own from day one. However, it's kind of lumpy bumpy back here. And I don't know if I'm ever going to fertilize and mow that again. I think we've got enough grass coming from other places. And, I hate to, hang on, let me hop over the fence here. I said hop over the fence. There we go. I hate to ever leave money on the board, but we don't, I just did some quick math off the top of my head. I think we get about 4,000 euro from this area right here when we convert grass to silage and then sell it and we get some digestate back. I just don't know if it's worth it. So in the future, I think we may skip this. It's a shame to let it go to waste, but, what are you going to do? So we're going to hop. Right. Got it in one try. I'll show you a couple things that we got here. In fact, I'll come back here and I'll show you what's going on. Moving around. I got a combo of gamepad and mouse, which can be a little tricky. So we did get oilseed radish in fields 3, 4, and 5. So this is like the very top of the hill, sort of above the farm. We do have oilseed radish in here to stabilize these fields from now till spring. The other fields I just left fallow. And we'll let the root structure of the crop that we harvested from those fields hold the soil together till spring. We did mow field, we had previously mowed field 22 right here, and off camera, I mowed field 23, field 20, and then this very small area behind the farm. As I said, we got all that gathered up. And I also ran a cultivator around the outside of field 9 to see if we're going to get that extra layer of fert from having spread digestate and then cultivating it in, folding it in. And it's my understanding that we will not, because we already had one layer from the chopped straw mod from our canola chaff and a second layer from the digestate itself. So I feel like you just can't stack that many perks or buffs or however you want to call it. I traded out our Rauch fert spreader, our pellet spreader, for a Kuhn, and the reason I did is we have so much Kuhn gear. I mean, we basically have the entire Kuhn DLC, so I figured let's just go with it. I got this. It's a 6-meter tool, and you can use it for cultivating or for planting grass or oilseed radish, and this is what I used to plant the oilseed radish in field 3. And then I also I was under the impression that we had a power harrow. We did not, so I went ahead and got this combo. It's the power harrow, the 4-meter drill, and then the seed basket for up front. And then because we're going to be planting corn, I went ahead and got this Kuhn. So this is a drill. I'm asking, not telling. This is a drill, correct? Because that's for cereal crops. And then this is a seeder because it's for corn and soybeans. I don't know. I don't know. I'm learning this stuff, man. All the years I've been playing this game, I'm still learning about farming. Right, so we will take this down to the BGA eventually. Yeah, there we go. And this tractor is, I want to say, about 260 horsepower, and this loading wagon requires 240. And you can feel the weight, for sure you can feel the weight, but it's done okay. It's moved it no problem. Yeah, I think this is a good combo. And I did not necessarily want to use the Optum, I don't want to put too many hours on that expensive piece of equipment. So we're third person, and I wanted to show you something. This is something that really impresses me about a good map, and particularly about Bullet Bill and Oxygen David maps. Look at that view in the distance, man. Holy smokes, like not every map maker can do that. What a sense of like depth and bigness. Bigness, yeah, that's a word. What a sense of depth and bigness you get on a Bullet Bill map. Really unbelievable. And I'll show you, like, by comparison, a different area after we make our turn down here. it really is a skill. And I have referred to map makers in the past as artists. And I know from a certain angle it's like, oh geez, Bill Will, that's sort of overstating it. And I think, no, it's not. I mean, it's a form of creative expression that makes people feel something. And that is my definition of art, for sure. So right through here, you can see this, what I just referred to as a feeling of depth and size, just how vast this area is. And I realize that that's done with trickery, you know, that there's some flat images out there and the way the skybox comes together. Doesn't bother me at all to know that I'm being tricked, as long as I'm being tricked well, and I love it. So the reason we're third person is a lot of maps, like what you see right now looking out in front of us, a lot of maps have this look to them, and it's the map makers use hills to sort of hide the horizon, if that makes sense, because they, well, I'm speculating, perhaps they can't give that feeling of size, and so they go the opposite way and try to give a feeling of almost like being in a valley, right, where there really is no long view. Carefully through here, carefully. But again, you know, coming through those trees and then getting to this area here where you can look out to the right, I feel like some map makers have gotten in front of that. They've conquered that, and they are able to make maps that give this unbelievable feeling of size. So I love it, man. I love it. We'll hop back in third person here because we'll hop back in first person. Yeah, but I just wanted to show you that. What a cool thing it is to be a map maker. And as always, I can't believe they give these away. Man, you know, when I think about paid DLC in various sims, when I think about the paid DLC even for Farm Sim, I don't complain about it. You know, I think the Coon DLC is probably one of the best values of any DLC for any mod. Man, I can't talk today. The best value for any DLC for any sim, I think, that I've ever bought. As far as like bang for your buck for a DLC, the Coon Pack, I think, is it. And you compare that to something like Big Bud or Ropa, right? That are kind of like, oh, really? That's it? Okay. So if that's what I would pay for a somewhat disappointing DLC, you know, 10 bucks, 15 bucks, 20 bucks, what would I pay for a map like Coldborough Park that I've put so many hours into? What would I pay for this? I pay 20 bucks for this easily. I think the problem is you never know what you're getting until afterwards. So that would be, I think, the tricky part is, you know, how would you know? How do you know what you're getting for a DLC? Right? That's a similar question. But you puts your money down, and I think there are different. How do I want to say this? I think there are different vibes, almost like different. It's hard to say. Like I will buy for the moment. I will buy any DLC for Train Sim World, only because to me, even though it's been out for almost 2 years, that sim is still kind of new, and it doesn't have a ton of depth. So I feel like I'm trying to add some depth, and I'll just get any DLC they release for it. Now, I did not get the Big Bud DLC for FS17. It just, it felt really gimmicky, so I didn't get it. And that's cool, you know, but as far as, you know, what, how do I want to say this? As far as what we do to continue making these games sort of what we want them to be, I don't know. That's a tough one sometimes. So I'm going to do just a couple passes on here. Drop the weight. I'm going to do just a couple passes on here to get it back to 100%, and then we're going to go ahead and clamp. Now, I am slightly concerned. I did get a blade, and I did try to move everything to the center and consolidate it nicely and make it all nice and pretty. But I feel like we've gone a little bit outside the border down here on this end. And I don't know. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you have a little bit of green chaff peeking out from underneath your blanket. But at the same time, you know, me and my OCD. Come on. Come on. Come on, little JCB. Come on. There you go. There you go. Just needed a little lock in the hubs and we're good to go. So I will, you know what? I'm not going to mess with it. I'm not going to mess with it. I was going to hook the blade up and push that back in there, but if I do that, it's just going to open a can of worms. A can of worms, I tell you, and then we're going to have to, like, compress it again and compact it, and it's just going to be a whole scene. So, I don't know. For some reason, I haven't put anything in this bunker for quite a while, but for some reason, I feel like the blanket actually goes out beyond the walls. Of course, I'll be totally wrong when I throw the blanket on. I'll be completely wrong, and there'll be green chaff poking out everywhere. But what can you do? What can you do? So I also, I'll show you in a second, but I also brought down the telehandler from the main farm on top of the hill. I brought it down here to the BGA, and I put a course in. I built a course, a macro, whatever you want to call it, in course play to unload this. Now we did it the first time. Yeah, we had, no, I'm sorry. We didn't have chaff in the bunker. We had chaff in the bunker at the main farm, dairy farm. We had chaff in the bunker at the dairy farm, and I brought it down here in our Stewart trailer as silage, and then we used the belt system to get it in there. And I really don't like the belt system, I have to say. I'm not a fan. So I brought the telehandler down. You ready? There we go. How we do on our ends. This end looks good. Oh. Drum roll. How'd we do? Fantastic. Just as I not confidently suspected, the blanket actually goes out beyond the ends of the bunker. Perfect. So, to break off. There we go. Unlock the hubs. So, I built a macro, I built a course in course play, and the telehandler should I say, not automatically, but you know what I'm saying. We have it built so once we turn it on, once we activate it, hopefully the telehandler will unload this entire bunker into the hopper. Now, I will brake, turn that off, right? So I will show you this because it's interesting, and I do have a concern. I do have a concern. And I realize that FS17 has been out for over 2 years, and we've all used course play, and we all know how it works. So if you're, for some reason, not familiar with course play, then I will very quickly give you a little primer here. So I need to zoom way out to show this to you. Like that, and let's see how far out it lets me go. Yeah, that should do it. Yep, that should do it. So when we go to course play, we go to our folder here, and I think, yep, it's just called BGA1, and then we'll have to go here, and there you go. And I don't, it may be hard for you to see, but essentially we've got a course where the telehandler will start at the front side of the bunker. It'll go in, it'll look for essentially the first occurrence of silage, like on a left to right plane, and it'll sort of go there, fill the scoop, back up, go over to the hopper, dump, and then you can see top center of the screen, it will back up, do a 3-point turn, and then go back to its starting point. In theory, that's what it will do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Very oftentimes it doesn't. And let's go down in here. And I had to turn course play off to zoom, because when the course play window is open, you can't zoom. So, and again, I'm sure you know this because the game itself and course play have been out for so long, but if you don't, when you're unloading a bunker, you put 4 positions into your telehandler, and this is my concern. So one is the loading position, and you see the boom goes up and down very fast, right? Transport position. Now check that out. The boom moves fast, but the bucket knuckle moves slowly. Here we go. Right? And then up here. And then we've got pre-unloading, right? So now we're up over the hopper, and then unloading. Now my concern is, check this out, when we go from there back to transport, check it. The boom moves so fast and the knuckle moves so slow. I think that's going to cause problems. I do. But you know what? It's always something. It is, man. When you're down on the farm, it is always something. Now, I have seen YouTubers. I have seen YouTubers do unbelievable things with courseplay. Right? And I'm talking about like a forage harvester, right? Two tippers servicing the forage harvester. And then down at the BGA, another tractor compacting, and the other tractor that is compacting, when it senses a tractor pulling a tipper in to unload at the BGA, it will like pull to the side and wait. What? What the hell? I've seen that. I've seen that. I have seen that once or twice. What I have seen probably 25 or 30 times is a YouTuber just about losing their shit with courseplay. And that would be more my experience. And courseplay is it's a really interesting mod. It's extremely ambitious. I would say it is, in its own way, even though it's sort of discreet and meant to run behind the scenes, I feel like in its own way, it's more ambitious than Seasons. And the reason why is thusly. Courseplay has got to do a different thing for every tractor and every implement on every field in every map for every evolution, right? So it's got to do one thing to cultivate. It's got to do something different to seed. It's got to do something different when it's a combine harvester. It's got to do something different when it's running a grain cart. You see what I'm saying? It's almost an impossible ask because it's such an ambitious like list of goals. And it doesn't surprise me that as important a mod as it is and as much as I use it, it doesn't surprise me that it's really not super reliable and it very often just doesn't work. Right? I mean, you could say the same thing about the basic hired helpers from base game, right? They disappoint you constantly. Even on vanilla maps, even on base game maps, they'll drive off into the distance. They'll just leave, drive across the field, start doing something else in the next field. They don't care. So I understand that the AI is like, it's a really big ask. And the thing about something like courseplay is, you know, if I were developing courseplay, if I were testing it, I would only ever test it on base game maps. And let me tell you why. It's because there's no reason to test it on other maps, on mod maps, because there's no beginning or end point. Like once you start testing on mod maps, when do you stop? And even if you were to say, well, I'll only test on maps from the mod hub, because those are approved by Giants, there are still dozens of them. So if you were to test courseplay on a Giants approved mod map on the mod hub and find out that it didn't work on that particular mod map, what are you going to do? You're going to pull it, right? Stop supporting it? The only maps that you can test courseplay on are vanilla base game maps. And if it works on those, it works on those. And if it doesn't work on a mod map, well, you know, tough titty. It's just, there are too many variables on mod maps as far as how a map maker marks the edges of their fields, or whether the fields are square or roundy or irregular. So I am simultaneously defending courseplay and attacking it. I'm defending it because it's an impossible task that they've gone after. And I'm attacking it because it's incredibly inconsistent and really doesn't work very well. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand how it works at all, because what we're asking from it is just, it's huge. That we would try to have one mod that could do all those things on all those different maps with all those different tools. Right. That may or may not have made any sense, what I just said. I think it did. I think it did. You know, I've wondered why Well, I guess the main reason why Courseplay was never included in base game is because I believe, and you know, if I'm ever wrong about something, I'm just wrong. That's cool. I'm not going to fight you over it. I'm wrong about stuff all the time. But if it's running on scripts as I believe it is, then it really can't be in base game because consoles don't like scripting. So I think I would like to see, and in a lot of ways, Cattle and Crops, and in fact, I'll circle back to that in a second. I think in a lot of ways, Cattle and Crops is trying to do the Courseplay thing where from the jump, from base game, you can just tell a tractor, hey, go here. And you don't have to lay in a course, right? Because you know with Courseplay, if you're going to be spending enough time on a map, you can spend some time with just one tractor laying in courses from one part of the map to the other. I would typically start with like from the store to the farm and from the farm to the store. And I do that when I'm going to be tabbing. When you're not tabbing, it's not as critical because you're always in a vehicle and you can always get to another vehicle. But if you're going to be tabbing from vehicle to vehicle, it's fun to go to the store, buy a couple things, and then just automatically send them back to the farm, right? And you can lay in those courses manually. What Cattle and Crops is doing, and what I guess what I would like to see Farm Sim do, is that's included with base game, like from the jump. But again, the problem is because they're different sized tractors. We're wrapping some bales, by the way. You may have noticed we're going to wrap these last few bales. I did everything on the far side of the field, but I wanted to show you the bale wrapper. There's different sized tractors. So if you had a course that says run down the center of the traffic lane, not the center of the highway, but like stay in the center of your lane, it's going to work great for something like this little 1455, but the Big Bud is going to have like a third of the tractor is going to be across the center line into opposing traffic. That wouldn't work. And if you said, you know, stay as far on a UK map, stay as far to the left as possible so you don't interfere with traffic, now you're going to be hitting signs, right, and getting stuck in ditches and various other things. So there's no single course to get from point A to point B that would work for every tractor on every map. And then you get into things like, are you trailing a piece of equipment? Because if you are, you need to take turns wide, right? So you see what I'm saying? I mean, this is why we have to put in courses manually with Courseplay, and even then they don't always work for every tractor and every implement. So from a certain perspective, what we expect Courseplay to do and what we would expect it to do on a base game map, like as part of base game, it is in its own way sort of impossible. So I have nothing but hatred and animosity for Courseplay. And I have nothing but love and respect for Courseplay. And speaking of me maybe not knowing what I'm talking about, it is my understanding that the developer of Courseplay is one of the developers of Cattle and Crops. And I have me a theory, I tell you. I have a theory that, like, the why don't we moment, I don't know if you know what that is. I don't know if you and your pals have ever been sitting around and one of you is like, why don't we? And then you know, why don't we buy a coffee cart? Why don't we get tattoos? Why, you know, just one of those moments where it's like, hey, why don't we? We're already whatever. Why don't we whatever? And when I look at Courseplay and then I look at Cattle and Crops, if, as I have reason to believe, if one of the Courseplay developers is one of the developers of Cattle and Crops, then that why don't we moment is, why don't we make a farm sim that has all the things that we wish were included in base game Farming Simulator 15, 17, 19, etc. And having played, I think about 100 hours of Cattle and Crops on the early access, and really having it not work at all. Now, it is early access. It's not full retail, although they're charging money for it. They're charging more for that game than you pay for a game that's out of early access. Jeezy Pete's. and we got to go pick those up. I'll leave that gate open for the moment. We're going to do one more thing, and we're going to call it an episode. So if you look, let me bring it down here with a dark background. Top left corner, you see cows. Power food, base food, 23%. I thought, perfect. We'll feed cows on camera. And then I realized we don't have any silage. And if I just give them hay and straw, it's going to throw the balance off, and it'll just never be right. We'll always have like the wrong percentages of food in there. So I went ahead and had the delivery service, yeah, that's what we call it. I went ahead and had the delivery service drop off a big bag, a brother bag of cow food, and we're going to use our wee skid steer. We're going to put the pallet blades on it. There we go. Oh, he's tiny, disappearing behind a wall. We're going to put the pallet blades on here and take some food over to our cows. And then additionally, can I sneak through here? Oh, just barely. Oh, just barely. Wait, what? Wait, it's not even over here. Wait a minute. Did I even get pallet forks for this thing? Oh, I don't think... Oh, yeah, I did. Wait a minute. No, I didn't. I didn't. We've got a bale spike, and we've got pallet forks for the telehandler. We've got... I mean, I guess I could use this. Yeah, we'll use the... We'll use the... Just the front loader. Okay. I was under the distinct impression that I had got pallet forks for this thing. Okay. Well, I need to then. Right, so I feel sometimes like everything that we've ever dreamed about having included in base game farm sim is what the Cattle and Crops developers wanted to put in Cattle and Crops. And I think they're learning like how hard that is. And save game. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's huge. AI is, I mean, we call it AI. There's nothing AI about it. It's just a decision tree. But, like, thinking about courseplay, right? I mean, I just went through a list of problems that you would need to solve to just move tractors from one part of the map to the other. So, as we're getting our front loader hooked up on our 1455, let's think about some of the problems that you would need to solve to have, like, not fully automated, but like semi-automated field service. And by that I mean that you would just be able to get in an implement, click a field on the map, right? And tell that implement, tell that driver, that worker, whatever, go here and do this, right? So let's say you want to drive the grain cart. So you click on your combine harvester that already has a header on it, and you say, go to this field and start harvesting, and I'm going to service you with the grain cart. Right? That's easy enough. On paper, that sounds easy enough. Or maybe it's just the opposite. And you're in the combine harvester, and you click on a tractor, and it's already got a tipper hooked up. You click on that, and you say, service the combine harvester in field whatever, field 10. Right? Easy enough. You take it from there to the main farm. Now that's functionality is in, sort of, is in Cattle and Crops, right? And it doesn't work. Or at least the last time I tried it, it did not work. It did not work well. Work in progress, early access, that's fine. But let's think about what's involved in that, right? Because Courseplay has a feature called, let me line this up a little better. Courseplay has a feature called Pathfinder. And Pathfinder is intended to, when you have a grain cart going back and forth from a combine harvester in a field to another point to drop off, whether it's a PGA in service to a forage harvester, or going to a silo if you have a tipper servicing a combine harvester. Yeah, I said that right. there's something called Pathfinder, which never really worked, and on GitHub you can see that it occasionally is activated and other times it's deactivated. And I get it. I sympathize. Because what Pathfinder, the goal of Pathfinder is that Pathfinder has your grain carts never drive over crop, never crush crop. Well, that's awesome, man. I love it. And it sounds simple enough to say, just don't drive on the grain. And then you think about what's involved in that, right? And I'm not a coder. I have written code, but I am not a coder. But I've done a ton of flowcharts and decision trees. There we are. Right. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I've done, in my time in business, I have done a ton of flowcharting and decision trees. And what I can tell you is, even just ballpark, right? I haven't even gotten into the specifics yet, but just ballpark, thinking about that decision tree, these are the things that you would need to consider. You would need to think about where the crop is in the field, and just that and nothing else is a handful, right? Oh, game. Oh, game. You would need to think about where the crop is in the field, right? You would need to think about how do you get into the field? Because some fields you can get into from any angle, right? Other fields you can only get into from certain places, right? Like if there's trees... Oh, Jesus. Oh, game. If there's trees on one side of the field, you cannot get into the field from that side, right? Or if there's a cliff there or whatever. So you have to think about where the crop is in the field and how to get into that field. You've got to think about, and when I say think, I mean calculate. Obviously, AI doesn't think, I know that. You've got to think about things like what volume of grain is the combine harvester putting into its tank per length, per pass. Because if the volume of grain that it's going to put in its tank in a single pass exceeds the room that's in the tank, then you've got to get that harvester emptied before it gets to the end of that length, if its next length is going to have the pipe over crop. Does that make sense? As we would in real life, right? But it's got to figure all this stuff out. And I mean, I could go on and on about all the things we'd have to consider. Oh, okay. So that all went in there. Fantastic. So you see what I'm getting at. There are like 1,000 things to think about. And it could be that the conclusion that the AI comes to, the calculation that it makes is, no, it just can't do that on this field. It just can't, there's no way that it can automatically have a grain cart service a combine harvester in this particular field, or whatever. And you get into other things like physics and, the weight. Is it going to evaluate the hills that are in its path between the field that it's servicing, the combine harvester that it's servicing, and the place that it's dropping off? Because that's a problem. So you got a small tractor that's going to fill a grain cart and try to take it to a silo, but in between the two is a hill that particular tractor with that grain cart full of grain can't get up. And when you think about all those things, that is when I feel like Courseplay, it's a miracle that it works at all, and it doesn't do nearly half of those things. So we're pretty demanding about games, and I guess my words for today, what I would want to convey to you, or what I've been thinking about, is sometimes the things that we ask for in gaming, at least from my perspective, I come at them like, oh, come on, it's not that big a deal. Why can't they do that? And then when you think about it, when you really think about it and create a decision tree, oh dear, did not cut nearly as sharp as I wanted it to. When you think about a decision tree, when you think about, why can't it do that? All it would need to do is deedly-deet, right? A, B, C, D, thusly. When you lay it out on paper, that's when you realize, oh shit, this is impossible. How would you even begin to approach this? So, from that perspective, as frustrated as I get with Courseplay, and as often as it disappoints me, I'm amazed that it works at all for even the times that it does work. Right, I think that's it. Yep. All the grass is in. All the bales are done. Animals are fed. Bunker is compacted and is fermenting. I'm going to put this up. Now, I will tell you this before we leave. This silage additive that I got here, I got for our Krona forage wagon that we had early in this map. And we traded that out. It was too small. We got this bigger one, and I was curious if it would use the same silage additive. It does. So apparently this is a generic fill type, and if you have silage additive as a feature on your loading wagon, any silage additive will work, I think. They seem to be interchangeable. So that's that. And then the last thing is our bales that we have wrapped. I got to figure out how to get them in here. I mean, obviously we can just use the auto load on our little flatbed trailer, but that's not super realistic because all we have are spikes right now, and you would never pierce the wrapping on a silage bale before it's done fermenting. So I think I'm going to need to look in either the mod hub or somewhere and find some square bale tongs, and we'll need to own those to realistically have a way that we got those on the trailer, even if we actually use auto load to put them on the trailer. Does that make sense? I think it does. This is all our grass stuff. It's all put up, and we're going to put that pottinger trailer right in here, and that'll do it. That will do it for just about the season, I think. I may, next week, I may plant some canola on camera, but then we will, yeah, then we'll call it for the winter, and I'll go ahead and skip winter, and we'll jump back in the spring. Sound good? Sounds good. Folks, thanks for stopping back to check out the Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Farming Simulator 17 from Coldborough Park Farm. And we will see you next time. Take care now.